This is a strange school. Bad grades don't matter here, but you have to look good. They even have a beauty ranking list. Girls who make the top 10 get to live in a villa and eat all kinds of delicious food for free. I'm a new transfer student. I got scratched on the face by a leaf as soon as I arrived, so the teacher arranged for me to sit next to Diana. Diana is number 10 on the ranking list. She was really nice to me, and when she saw the scratch on my face, she became even nicer. After school, Diana took me to see the villa. Only the top 10 princesses are allowed to live there. Ordinary students can only enter if invited by a princess, and the food and drinks here are way better than the cafeteria. They even have servants on standby all the time. So Diana told me to cherish this chance, because I wouldn't get to eat like this again. I just smiled, then took out a chocolate bar from my pocket and started eating. I even split half of it with Diana. That's when Louise rushed in. She's a friend of Diana's. Diana used to bring her in to eat, but today Diana didn't invite her, so she just barged in herself. Diana pretended to be kind and shared a piece of cake with her. Even when the manager came, Louise kept eating the cake first. Then the bell rang, and the number 1 Princess Anne showed up. Wherever she goes, she's always the center of attention. I suddenly told Diana, "I think Anne isn't as pretty as you." Diana denied it, but she was already imagining it in her head. Then Diana said I was pretty too, and wanted to test my beauty score. But after the test, she immediately got nervous, because I ranked number 11 right below her, and Diana started feeling threatened. But early the next morning, Diana woke up to see her ranking drop from 10 to 11, and when she looked in the mirror, she found a pimple on her nose. And now, I was number 10. Girls were crowding around me, flattering me. Diana began to think it was because of the chocolate yesterday. She suspected it was all part of my plan, but I comforted her with an innocent look. If the pimple disappears, the ranking will go back for sure. I said that, and tugged at the princess tie, complaining that the top 10 princess tie felt uncomfortable, and without her princess title. Diana had to eat the awful cafeteria food like everyone else, use the dirty bathrooms, and deal with everyone's mocking. Meanwhile, I met up with the chubby girl, and started planning something with her to end this nightmare as soon as possible. Diana tried every acne treatment she could find. Finally, a few days later, her pimple was gone, and her ranking returned to number 10. But soon another problem appeared. Right after Diana returned to the villa, another girl replaced her again. Just as the manager was about to kick Diana out, I stepped out in time to help her, and even invited her to swing together. But at that moment, Diana came up with a terrible idea. If she couldn't become prettier, then she would make others uglier. So she started pushing the swing for me, but each push was harder than the last. The swing went out of control, and my face slammed into the ground. Diana pretended to panic and ran over to check on me. My face was swollen and bruised. Diana saw she was back to number 10 and completely forgot about me lying on the ground. But after she left, I opened my eyes and smiled. While I was making a chocolate cake, I suddenly noticed the chocolate was the exact same color as the poop I had just stepped on, so I scraped it right into the bowl and made a whole tray of chocolate cake. Then I brought the cake to my next-door neighbor. Looking at the freshly baked chocolate cake, the new neighbor accepted my kindness. She even said the cake tasted great.
You did good. Apology accepted, Nigella.
The only reason I wanted to get back at her was because she pushed me too far. On the very first night she moved in, she threw a huge party at her place. At first I didn't think much of it, but I didn't expect their speakers to still be blasting at 3 in the morning. I instantly felt annoyed out of my mind, and I spent the whole night suffering in the noise, then dragged my exhausted body to work. When I reached my front door, I almost stepped on Poop lying on the ground. I didn't expect her dog to poop all over her lawn. It made me feel sick. But since I was rushing to work, I didn't have time to confront her. Then after work, when I got home and showered, I thought I could finally get a good night's sleep. But in the middle of the night, I was woken up again by loud blasting noise. And of course, it was 3 in the morning again. I angrily ran to my neighbor's house again.
Sorry, but what have we just discussed? It's 4 o'clock in the morning and the music is getting louder. Some of us have got to get up for work in the morning.
Don't talk to me about graft, love. I've done my fucking shit,
Right, well...
I had no choice but to call the police, but the station said noise complaints weren't their responsibility, and that I had to work with the surrounding neighbors to report it to the community office instead. So I grabbed my pillow, drove to a quiet lakeside, and slept in my car until morning. When I got home after work that night, my neighbor saw I didn't bring the police, so she became even more reckless. She started another crazy party as soon as it got dark, so I rushed to the neighbor next door, asking them to report her with me. But once they heard she was a troublemaker, they refused to help. Since no one wanted to help me, I had to endure the annoying noise, but I knew I had to figure out something. So the next morning, when the noisy neighbor finally fell asleep, I rolled out my lawnmower and started circling around my yard. But after just a few steps, I stepped on something sticky. Seeing her dog had pooped on my lawn again, I completely snapped. I I went back inside and started making a chocolate cake, scraped everything off my shoe into the bowl, and made a cake with the same color. Then I knocked on my neighbor's door. Watching her eat it made me so happy inside. But right when I was ready to get a good night's sleep, I found she turned her speakers to the maximum volume. Even the glass on my table was shaking. To get back at her, I took out the key my mom left me before she passed. Turns out my mom used to live right next door, so I sat by the window and waited for my neighbor to leave in the morning to buy breakfast. Then I slipped into her house with the key. While cooking, I suddenly noticed the egg was completely hollow. That left me very confused. Then I grabbed another egg to check, and it was hollow too. The entire box of eggs was like that. At first, I thought something went wrong when I bought them, so I didn't take it too seriously. While I was doing housework, something strange happened again. When I was wiping the window, I noticed the wall behind me slowly moving toward me. In an instant, I was pressed against the glass. Just when I thought I was about to be crushed, the wall suddenly moved back to its original place. I thought it was just an illusion, but when I kept wiping the glass, I noticed the marks left on it, and that was when I realized everything that just happened was real. At that moment, I remembered the first day I moved here. Everyone had a cheerful smile on their face, except Jenny, who looked completely different. She even said something strange in front of everyone.
We shouldn't be here.
To test whether I was dreaming, I wrapped plastic wrap tightly around my head right before I passed out. I ripped the wrap off and realized I wasn't dreaming, so I started trying to find what was wrong with this place. But right then, I noticed a plane in the sky leaving a long smoke trail. And soon after the plane crashed, I quickly asked the bus driver to take the bus to help the victims, but he refused.
I don't go that way.
What?
I don't go that way. We need to stay here where it's safe.
So I had to get off and walk toward the crash site alone. Strangely, no matter how long I walked, I couldn't find the crash site. When I climbed up a hill, I found a circular building. I thought there must be someone inside, but when I got closer, I realized it was just a simple structure. Confused, I slowly reached my hand toward the glass, but in the next second, a red flash appeared before my eyes, and I fainted instantly. When I woke up again, I found myself back at home, and that made me feel something was very wrong. So I told my husband what had happened, but he said I must have been dreaming. However, the next day I suddenly got a phone call. They are lying to all of us. I thought Jenny might not be mentally stable, so I hung up quickly and went to the dance studio to practice. But then I noticed Jenny in the mirror, copying my movements. It froze me on the spot in terror, but when I turned around,
so I can see him!
Marcus!
that day my son was planning to go watch a game, but he received a call from me in the middle of the trip, telling him the news that his study abroad application was approved. I told him to come home immediately, but as he turned around, he was stopped by a passing white police officer. The officer asked him to place his hands on the steering wheel, but Jack wanted to place his phone on the passenger seat first.
So I can see him!
Marcus!
A child about to study abroad was beaten to death in the street. The court's conclusion was that Jack was suspected of reckless driving, and the police were just doing their job. This result was hard for me to accept. I spent every day in sorrow. Although I was a member of parliament, I couldn't get the correct verdict for my son, since the law couldn't bring justice. I decided to take matters into my own hands to avenge my son. I started gathering information everywhere. Finally, a mysterious person gave me enough evidence. The notes detailed the incident, and even included information on other victims and their families. I thought that with the evidence I could clear my son's name, but that night, high-ranking officials showed up at my door, threatening me to stop investigating. They bluntly told me this case was covered up by the police chief, as part of a bribe to the mayor for the chief's re-election. I knew I couldn't fight them alone, so I found the families of other victims and decided to expose the bribe money to the public. That night we blew up a car by the roadside, distracting the bodyguards at the mayor's house. Then we rushed upstairs to the safe, but as soon as we reached the top, we encountered the nanny coming out of the bathroom. Luckily, she acted like